Nick Sorensen at his first press conference as the 49ers defensive coordinator today. What did you think of Nick Sorensen? I thought he was I don't know. I don't want to be mean or rude. He's kind of boring. He worked hard not to answer questions specifically. He didn't have a lot of energy. He didn't have a lot of personality. He seemed like he was standing there trying to figure out how to say nothing. Was that your impression? He did have some insight when asked about Brandon Staley. He was pretty transparent and said he's holistically was the word he used multiple times. He's helping holistically, which means like with everything. So in terms of picking personnel, building scheme, evolving it, and building game plans. So it sounds like it's partially his defense, that they're like co-owners of it or something. I mean, they could call Nick Sorensen the defensive coordinator, but the other guy's collaborating with everything, and he has experience, unlike Nick. And wouldn't that be weird if you got a promotion to a job that you'd never done before, and you're feeling a little insecure because you've never done the job before, and they bring in another guy who isn't your boss? Technically, you're not even his boss because he's the assistant head coach. So who's the boss? Right? Isn't the assistant head coach above the defensive coordinator? You tell me. That's awkward. So it sounds like, Sorensen is essentially the mouthpiece for Brandon Staley. He'll be on the sideline. He can talk to the players. He can look them in the eye. He can lead the meetings. But the brains of the operation is Staley. He's picking the players. He's building the game plans. He's thinking of, how can Nick Sorensen evolve the defense when this is the only scheme he's ever known? He comes from Seattle. He knows one scheme. Brandon Staley doesn't come from Seattle. He's a Vic Fangio disciple. The Niners want to evolve on defense. Sorensen can't help him in that pursuit. All he can do is ask Staley what he thinks and then say, I like this idea, I don't like this idea. He can sort of curate Staley's ideas, but it seems to me that he has none of his own about how to change the defense. I asked him today, I said, for so long, your defense has sort of been known for that straightforward four-man pass rush with your defensive linemen. Are you going to try to maybe jazz that up a little bit this year, like scheme up some other pressures? And he says, we're always trying to evolve, but that's going to be our bread and butter. Are you sure about that, Nick? Have you talked to Brandon? You might want to talk to Brandon Staley about that. I think Brandon Staley has different ideas that maybe he hasn't expressed to you just yet. Because why do you think Brandon Staley wanted to sign Leonard Floyd, dude? Anyway, it was kind of hard to take Nick Sorensen seriously. Like, he needed a haircut, he needed to shave, he's wearing a hat, the hat was pulled low, you couldn't really see his eyes. Like, all that's bad. Come on, man, this is your first impression. Look ready to go. Would Robert Saleh come out shaggy with a beard and a hat? Absolutely not. Would D'Amico Ryans? Absolutely not. You know why? Because those guys had head coach aspirations. Immediately. When they stood in front of the media, they saw themselves as head coaches and acted like it. Nick Sorensen, another one of these guys that acts like, wow, this is amazing. How did I get here? This is great. I'm just going to be myself. Okay. So my first impression of Nick Sorensen is that he's not the defensive coordinator of this team. And then you think, well, who is the defensive coordinator? Is it Brandon Staley? It's Kyle Shanahan. It's Kyle Shanahan. Whatever he wants, he gets. He's a control freak. He has his hand in everything in the organization. Everything. Including the defense. So, Sorensen, Staley, it's Kyle. He'll delegate to those two as long as he trusts them, which could be a couple more months. As soon as he lost trust in Steve Wilks, it was all Kyle. I don't know. Were you guys impressed with Nick Sorensen's answers or his presentation? He seemed like very low energy. That's another thing. Someone asked him, like, well, what's your style going to be on the sideline when you're coaching? Are you going to be like Saleh and D'Amico? That's a fair question because everyone knows what you're talking about when you say that. Are you going to have high energy? Steve Wilks didn't. And Sorensen gave this like deer in the headlights looks and was like, I don't know. I haven't coached yet. Yeah, we know. I don't know. It seems like Kyle Shanahan is this dour Bill Belichick-esque coach who just got run out of New England and isn't a coach anymore because players don't like him. And he's so negative. But it seemed like Kyle was balanced well by Saleh and D'Amico, guys who were just the exact opposite. They bring energy to the team. And Kyle's like an energy vampire. He's so negative and dour and reserved. Saleh and D'Amico breathe life into their team and their defenses. And I thought Kyle understood and had the self-awareness to know that he needed that type of a coordinator. And then he hired Steve Wilks, who's not like that. And now he's hired Nick Sorensen, who I just met for the first time, who's more low-key than Steve. Steve Wilks had like a, he's older. He almost had like a seething anger. Like he had an edge to him. He wasn't super positive and upbeat like Saleh and D'Amico, but he had this like, don't mess with me edge, which I respected. Sorensen just has this kind of like, hey, I'm a cool guy. I'm a nice guy. I'm basically a position coach who I don't know. He just didn't seem to have much of a presence. Wilks had more presence than him. Didn't think it was super impressive. But what do I know? Patrick, so many viewers barely likes. Let's support Grant. Yeah, like the stream. If you haven't liked the stream right now, raise your hand. You're out. You can't watch the show anymore. You're not allowed. Everyone that hasn't liked the stream, go away. You're not my friend anymore. We're no longer friends. Yeah, that's right. That's how I do. I base my friends on who likes my YouTube streams. I go in, I look in after, and I said, that's my friend. That person is now, we're friends. If I see him on the street, I will know them and I will say, thank you, sir or ma'am, for liking my stream.